When you think about cybersecurity, you probably picture hackers in some faraway place, right? But what about the threats lurking right inside our own buildings? Every single Ethernet port in an office, a factory, you name it, it's a physical way in. And leaving them unsecured? Well, that's like leaving your front door wide open. An unsecured network port is a massive, massive vulnerability. Seriously, it means anyone can just plug in a device and potentially get access to your entire network, completely bypassing all those expensive firewalls. And believe me, this isn't just some theoretical problem. It's a very real and very expensive one.
Take a look at that number, $4.35 million. That was the average cost of a data breach way back in 2022. A single unauthorized connection can spiral into a total catastrophe. We're talking huge financial losses, operational downtime, and a reputation that's just shattered. The stakes for controlling who gets on your network could not be higher.
So just think about it for a second. Your office. Every one of those little network jacks you see in the wall, each one is basically an unlocked door to your company's most sensitive data. A visitor, an unhappy employee, even the cleaning crew. Anyone could plug right in and start causing trouble. That's the reality we're dealing with.
Okay, so how do we lock these digital doors? Well, the solution is a standard that's used pretty much everywhere, called 8021X. And the absolute best way to understand it is to think of it like the security at a really exclusive nightclub. There are 3 key players, and each one has a very specific job to do.
First up, you have the patron. In our world, this is called the supplicant. It's any device, your laptop, a server, whatever, that wants to connect to the network. It's the one walking up to the velvet rope, asking to be let in.
Next, of course, you've got the bouncer. This is the authenticator, which is just your network switch or maybe a wireless access point. The bouncer stands at the door, stops the patron, and says, "Whoa, hold on, I need to see some ID." Now, the bouncer doesn't decide who gets in, it just enforces the rules.
And that brings us to the manager, the one in the back office with the master guest list. This is the authentication server, usually something called a radius server. The bouncer takes the patron's ID, radios the manager, and the manager is the one who checks the list and gives the final thumbs up or thumbs down.
And here you can see that whole security team in action. The supplicant, your laptop, tries to connect. The switch, our bouncer, stops it. Then the switch uses a special protocol to talk to the authentication server to verify that device's identity. It's this 3-way conversation that forms a really powerful security triangle.
So what does that conversation between our patron, bouncer, and manager actually sound like? Well, it's a process we call the authentication handshake. And yeah, it's a lot like getting your ID checked at the door.
At a high level, it's kind of like a 5-step dance. Your device says, "Hey, I want to connect." The switch says, "Prove it. Show me some credentials." Your device responds. The switch then passes that along to the server for the final check. And then the server sends back the verdict, access accept or access reject. The switch either opens the port or keeps it shut tight. Simple as that. But behind that simple 5-step dance, there's a pretty detailed technical conversation going on. The device and the switch speak a language called EAP over LAN, or EAPOL. The switch then kind of translates that and uses a different protocol, Radius, to talk to the authentication server. This secure, structured back and forth is what makes sure no imposters can slip through. Now, that language at the heart of this is called the Extensible Authentication Protocol, or EAP, and the key word there is extensible. Think of it less like one specific type of ID and more like a flexible framework that lets you use many different kinds of credentials, anything from a simple password to something way more secure. But, and this is a big but, not all of these ID checks are created equal. You can use passwords, sure, but those are vulnerable to phishing and all sorts of attacks. The real gold standard here is something called EAP-TLS, which uses digital certificates. This is like giving every single device a cryptographic, basically unforgeable ID card. It is vastly more secure than just a password. So 802.1x sounds pretty great, right? We've got a bouncer at every single door checking IDs. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, our bouncer has a few pretty significant blind spots. The first major problem is that not every patron even knows how to show an ID. We have tons of devices on our networks. Think printers, security cameras, older industrial equipment that were never built to support the 802.1x protocol. They simply can't do the handshake. So what do we do? Well, the common workaround is something called MAC Authentication Bypass, or MAB. This is basically you telling the bouncer, "Hey, see that printer over there? He's with me. Just let him in."
The switch just looks at the device's hardware MAC address and checks it against a simple approved list.
And this creates a massive security gap. Think about it. Using 802.1x is like the bouncer checking a government-issued photo ID. Using MAB is like the bouncer just asking for a name. An attacker can easily spoof or fake a MAC address, pretend to be that approved printer, and walk right past the velvet rope.
But hey, even for devices that do support it, 802.1x isn't exactly a walk in the park. It can be incredibly complex to set up right. Managing all the certificates, configuring every single switch port, it can be a huge operational headache. And just one tiny misconfiguration can accidentally leave a door wide open.
But here's the most critical flaw. And honestly, it's a big one. A skilled attacker doesn't need to fool the bouncer. They can just wait for someone else to get in and then slip in right behind them.
It's a physical man-in-the-middle attack. An attacker literally unplugs a trusted, authenticated device, like your work computer, plugs in their own malicious tool, and then plugs your computer back into their tool. The port is already open. By spoofing the computer's MAC address, the attacker can now inject whatever they want onto the network, and the switch is completely blind to it. It just thinks it's still talking to that one trusted device.
Okay, so clearly, just having a bouncer at the door is not enough. This all points to a much bigger security picture. We need a more comprehensive strategy.
This quote just nails it perfectly. 802.1x is like airport security, checking your ID. It does a great job of confirming who you are, but it does absolutely nothing to check what you're bringing with you. A legit, authenticated employee laptop could be riddled with malware, and 802.1x would welcome it onto the network with open arms.
And that's where a broader approach called Network Access Control, or NAC, comes in. NAC systems often use 802.1x for that initial ID check, but then they add another critical layer, a health check or posture assessment. Before you get full access, the NAC system checks you out. Is your antivirus running? Are you fully patched? It's the full baggage scan, not just a quick look at your ID.
So, what's the big takeaway here? 802.1x is an absolutely essential lock on your network's front gate, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. Real security is about defense in depth. It's about combining that strong authentication with device health checks and with continuous monitoring for threats that might have already slipped past the bouncer. After all, securing the door is only half the battle.